Let's talk filters. So there's a basic filter package that I like to have for every job. So a basic package that I'll get no matter what the job is I'll get ND filters, and then whatever diffusion the DP wants, and then a Rota Polarizer, a clear filter, and some diopters. So it looks like, just by looking in here briefly, we don't have our clear filter. So I'll make sure to write that down on the board so our prep tech can grab that for us. So the reason why I always add diopters is because no matter what, even if the DP says, oh, we don't need diopters, just get them. They're always something you want to have no matter what, because you never know on the day the director or even the DP is like, oh, we need to get like a really macro shot of their eye or of the thing, of the product or whatever, or you just can't quite get, I work on a lot of T-Mobile commercials, so a lot of times they want to fill the phone in the frame as much as possible, and sometimes we just can't get close enough, so we'll have to throw on a diopter. And so you always want to have these with you. And it's good for even just narrative stuff, like if you're doing close-up details, like macro-y kind of stuff, you want to have diopters. Or even if you're just doing close-ups on someone and you want to do like a wide-angle close-up, but maybe the lenses that you have don't have very good close focus, so you'll have to throw a diopter on. And that happened recently on a job that I was on. We had to, we were doing wide-angle close-ups, but we had to throw diopters on just so we could get the camera close enough so we could get like a head and shoulders on them. So always add diopters. Now when you add diopters, you have to get your diopter tray, especially if you're doing clip-on. So this is this is a 6x clip-on. So most likely on this zoom, you're not probably gonna use a diopter. It's mostly gonna be for primes. And so this will slide into our 4x5 matte box. So if we grab our 4x5 clip-on, we'll have to take out 2 of the stages. So we have 3 stages here, so we'll have to pull out 2. And then this diopter tray will take up 2 of those spots. All right, so now we have our diopters in here. So with these trays, one thing that's really important is that you make sure that you only put up to a +2 diopter in here. It can take to a 0.5 to a +2. Because the way that these trays are is the diopters, they're convex. And so they stick out. And if they're sticking out too far, you're gonna chip them and scratch them on the edges of the matte box. So make sure you're only putting a max of a 2 diopter in these trays. Because you see filter diopters will get scratched up all the time from people doing that, not realizing that that's the limit. And there's different types of these trays. This is just the Panavision one. They're all kind of similar. There's some where they click in, and this one you put them in and you tighten it down. And you have to make sure that the diopter, here let's just throw in the 2 because it's the easiest to see. So if you see, I don't know if you can see this on camera, it's like bubbles out. You want that not this way. So see how it's sticking out? Hope you can see this. It's sticking out from the tray. So if we try to put this in this matte box, it's gonna scratch. So what you want to do is you have to put that bubble facing into this tray. And then we'll tighten it down. So now we're flat. We're completely flat here. And then the bubble is going into the depth of the tray. And that's why there's a max, because if you try to put a 3 in here, it'll hit there, and it'll stick out from here, and it'll catch onto the matte box. So then when you're putting it in, you put the flat side towards the camera. And let's make sure we have a little safety mechanism here. We'll put that so this doesn't drop out. We'll tighten this down. And then we can add, you can still have one more filter. So if you have like an ND or a diffusion filter or whatever the most important filter is for that shot, in addition to the diopter, you can throw that in. And then we'll just tighten down all of them, and then you clip it onto your camera. Very important, always grab these 2 things. Grab the filters and grab the tray. Now, another thing, you always want to check your filters. Like I said, these diopters will get scratched up a lot right in the middle. So make sure you check all of your filters. So go through one by one, check all of them, and also make sure that all of them are the filter that they say they are on the pouch. So sometimes, this is pretty rare. This happens at any rental house. Sometimes just a filter gets put in the wrong pouch or a tag got changed. So make sure this is a Hollywood Blackmagic 1, and on the pouch, it's a Hollywood Blackmagic 1, HBM 1. So you want to go through, and then also you're making sure that it's not scratched. So you want to hold it up to the light, make sure there's no chips or scratches on it. And if sometimes, they just get smudges, so just clean them. These should all be clean, but just from people handling them, they get smudges on them. And so you just, like this one's a little bit smudgy. So you just want to clean them. And then for our NDs, depending on what camera you're using, you may not need all the way up to a 2.1 because, a lot of modern cameras now have internal NDs, which are fantastic. So you may only just want to get, I would recommend at least getting like a 3 to a 12 if you have really high internal NDs. Now the Alexa Mini goes up to a 2.1, but the LF and I think the Alexa 35 only go up to a 1.8. So you want to make sure that you have up to a 1.2 so if you need to add a 1.2 or something on top of your internal, that you have it. You don't want to be without. And then sometimes, like if you're using a camera that doesn't have any, you want to make sure you have the full range. They even make up to like 2.4s. So there's this one DP that I would work with a lot. We would always try to get a 2.4 ND because he liked to really keep the camera more wide open, but also to get the exposure like way down. He liked to, sometimes we would underexpose by like a stop.
In addition to the regular NDs, a good set of filters to have on a job is horizontal soft edge grads. They come in the regular ND strengths of 0.3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. They're really good for wide shots when you have like a really bright sky and then the bottom half of your frame isn't quite as bright, and you can use that grad to cut down the exposure of just the sky. Or if the bottom of your frame has a very bright exposure compared to the top of your frame and you want to cut that down, you can just flip that filter whichever way you want it, on the top or the bottom, to bring down the exposure of that part of the frame.
And then also we want to have always get a Pola, like I said. So we have our Rota Pola for our clip-on, for our 4x5 clip-on. And you can rotate it. And then camera side, so this is the part that's going to go towards the lens, towards the camera. And then that replaces a tray. So you would pull a full tray out and put the tray in, the whole Rota Pola in. Now, since we are doing this clip-on for the 6x, we're gonna have to get a 6x Rota Pola. Now they have 6x Rota Polas, and so that's something we would wanna add. Because we're gonna be using this matte box, we would add that to the board and make sure we get a 6x6 Rota Pola. So another thing is, because we have our 4x5 filters and we're using this 6x matte box, we do need that special Rota Pola, but let's see if we have those 4x5 step downs. So let's see if we take one of these trays out and we grab our 4x5 step down. This is our 4x5. So it's basically a metal plate that's the size of a 6x6 filter, but it has a cutout for 4x5. So you can take your regular 4x5 filters and put them in there. Let's see if this is going to be safe or if it's going to vignette. So let's see. I don't know that it will. It looks like we are getting a little bit on the side with the 4x5. So let's pull that tray out, put the 6x back in. And it's gone. But again, at the wide, we're getting that whole vignette. So we have to make sure, maybe they want that vignette. Maybe that's a look they're going for, that it can happen. So you want to make sure that no matter what the situation is, you don't want any of your gear to be obstructing the lens. So you don't want any matte box or filters or filter trays to be obstructing the image. Even though this lens is vignetting in this resolution that we have the camera set to, we could zoom past that tray. But just in case they're like, oh, we really like this vignette for whatever reason, artistic reason, you don't want to have a hard line on the side from that filter tray. So it looks like what we would have to do is we're going to have to add, for all of these filters that we have in 4x5, we're going to need to add them in 6x6. So we're going to have two sets of filters. We're going to have filters for our prime build, and we're going to have filters for our zoom build. Now, you know, it's not ideal, but it's how it is. It's just how it's going to be. And so just make sure you have all of those things when you're on set. Have your second AC. If they're not at the prep, let them know what the deal is, and then they can have all that stuff in their bag ready to go for when you do the switch. You know, we need to add those to our order, so we're going to put those on the whiteboard and to make sure that we have, and then again, we'll have to go through and check all of those filters as well, make sure they're not scratched or smudged, and that they're the right filter that the pouch says they are. One thing is I think it's like a classic soft filter. Two of the different manufacturers, I believe it's Schneider and Tiffin, they have classic soft, but there's one called classic soft 2000 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but a lot of times, all the rental houses, I've had this happen where they'll bring a classic soft, but it's the 2000 version, and it's a completely different filter. So make sure whenever you're looking at all your diffusion filters, it's the filter that the DP wants, and that they're all the matching set filter. They're all the same, and that there's not like a wrong filter accidentally mixed in with those filters. Because the Classic Soft and then like the Classic Soft 2000, they're completely different filters. One of them's like a nice soft, kind of not super diffusion. It just kind of softens it a little bit, depending on the strength. Obviously, they come in strengths. But the 2000 version is like super heavy, and it's like completely different. So, you know, make sure that you have the right one that you need. That does it for our filters, and I think that does it for our zoom build. We've finally figured out the map box. We know our filter situation now. We've got our zoom ready to go in for studio mode on the dolly or sticks, and we also have it ready if we're going to go on a crane. So I think we're pretty good to go.